2019. That's what
I'd like to call the special meeting for the San Mateo County Harbor District Board of Harbor Commissioners special meeting agenda for June 23rd, 2015. Order. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Bernardo, Commissioner Brennan.
Here.
Commissioner David, Commissioner Paravano.
Here.
President Mateusz.
Here. I'd like to entertain public comment, please. Well, if it's yours, okay.
You can just spell it out after.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry, I just whipped it together.
I didn't know who it came from.
Yeah.
Just please state your name for the record.
John Ullum, Half Moon Bay. I have a lot to say about it, but I'll just keep it real short. This is your forensic IT audit. It's referred to as a forensic IT audit in the cover letter. And it's referred to that way as when you asked for it. And for a lot of reasons, this is not a forensic audit. This isn't even close to a forensic audit. It's not even a very good inventory. The inventory that was done doesn't even list off the capabilities of the computers, which is like the main reason why you would do an inventory of equipment in an office. With about 15, 30 seconds more of right-clicking, you would know what your CPU was, how much RAM you had, and how big your hard drive was. And that's the three things any tech guy would need to see to tell you what the capabilities of that machine was. What you did is you had somebody who was really incredibly qualified, person who's capable of investigating arsons, product defect, and stuff like that. And there's no doubt this lady knew what she was doing, knows what she's doing. But all you really got from her was a physical count of black boxes. There's really nothing in here that is of any use or wasn't intuitively obvious to everybody in this organization. I don't understand who made this decision. Because if you look at the audit, the lady did exactly what she was asked to do. She was told to count up the number of black boxes that we had and to provide some sort of assessment as to whether there'd been frivolous spending, I guess. One of the best lines in both the report and the cover letter is the notion that there is no signs of frivolous spending on equipment. Well, that's because it's gone. This forensic audit does not address, doesn't say anything about the fact that you guys what provoked it, which I assume was the fact that you had a $40,000 invoice that you'd paid $32,000 for and had nothing to show for it. The report talks about VMware and a whole bunch of stuff, but I doubt anybody in your organization or yourselves even know what VMware is or how it applies or what version you have. At any rate, who's in charge? What was the point here?
Is there any other public comment? Okay, I'm going to pass this back to John. Good luck, please. All right, new business. One item on our agenda for tonight, and it's the letter in response to the LAFCO circulation draft municipal service review. Staff report, please.
Yeah. So we've worked out the draft. We actually finished with it early this afternoon. We were able to include comments that came in even as late as this morning. I know that we'd originally tried to have a deadline for the 15th from commissioners, but we were able to keep it together and reflect even some of the most recent comments and requests for additions. The most important thing I want to say is that these are the district's comments. You've invited a public process as you create these products. And of course, the public has every right and ability to comment on this letter and your process as you discuss it. But the public also has other means to comment in general, and in fact should be encouraged to comment to LAFCO and take advantage of those other avenues, because it's important to have the public comment, but this is unique in that it is the district's response that you're working on today. Mostly what we've done here is try to consolidate items that will speak to the point of addressing legal processes, make sure we raise the point of the transition the district's going through and has been going through since 3 board members were elected, the new general manager that hopefully will be taking office soon. We want to keep the tone professional and respectful, of course. We want to accept all the valuable recommendations that were in there. We want to accept them with gratitude, and even note that we're either already starting to do or will be doing them soon where appropriate. And importantly, we want to express the value of the district's services, which may have seemed to us to be undervalued in the report or perhaps overlooked. And I think that was what was important as we went through all the different kinds of comments and reviews. There were comments from commissioners, from staff, from others, from legal counsel, that may have not made it in their form just because they did not follow that parameter of, how is this going to really help? I mean, I think that was a lot of what we were looking at. So anyway, it's really your document now. We've hopefully captured a lot of the pithy comments. There's the table that will be included, and it's your document now to work with.
If I could add just one thing, is just to make sure that everybody's aware that Bill Parkin is here. Mr. Parkin was engaged by you to assist with the drafting of this report, and he's here, as I am, to answer any questions this evening.
Mr. President, if I can introduce a motion that we approve this draft letter as the district's response to the municipal service review initiated by LAFCO.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Before I entertain a second, I just wanted to have a little discussion. On page 14, the reference to page 37, the second sentence, I believe, that starts a higher priority could be improved. Should we go a higher priority must, comma, for better or for worse, comma, be placed on burdens of state mandated activities. So I believe it was just missing a preposition, so on or of.
Commissioner Matoush, I think General Manager and I have found 3 or 4 other small similar wording things. We can either bring them to your attention, or the motion you make, if you choose to make it, could be to allow for some
Scrivener's changes
of some sort. I found a couple of typos in the first couple of pages, and it needs to be reformatted on letterhead. I put numbers down the sides for purposes of this meeting in case people wanted to make references that was not intended to be included in the final document. There's a little bit of cleanup just needs to happen.
Also, I noticed on the document that I received via email, it was different than the one that I received here tonight, and that it doesn't have any page numbers. So if we could make sure that we get PDF copies with page numbers, that would be really helpful. I think it was a scan, it wasn't the PDF, so somehow it's scanned without page numbers. Anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Did you have other things?
No, I was just gonna say, Mr. Parkin, any comments at this point?
It was a pleasure working with your general counsel on this, and I think we agreed on everything, the final product, and it was a pleasure working with them on this. Happy to answer any questions.
We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
I have comments.
All right, comment.
Thank you.
Do a second and have.
So, I first wanted to
Out
just,
of order.
is it my turn now?
No, I made a mistake. I should have called for the second and then had discussion.
You can have discussion before or after.
Okay, well, all right.
I just wanted to start by saying that, that I really appreciate all the effort that went into this letter, and I know it was real last minute to kind of pull it together, to meet the deadline, and I really like the content of the letter, so, I just wanted to convey that, that I think it's a good letter, so that's great. And having only read it for the first time a couple hours ago, I'm still kind of processing the information. So I may have some other comments that I would need to make later via email, just because we only just received the letter and it's multiple pages, and there isn't, hasn't been much time for reading it. I've only read it quickly once so far. But a couple things popped out for me that are suggestions and maybe don't need to be incorporated into this letter, or maybe do, but just ideas. So one thing that isn't mentioned here, at least not that I recall, was a mention of the committees that have been set up since the new year. And that's a big change for the district. I know that was mentioned in the MSR. Another thing that I wanted to point out that wasn't mentioned in the MSR, and let me back up to committees. So for example, with the Sand Replenishment Committee, there's a newspaper article in the Daily Journal today on the front page regarding work that the Sand Replenishment, this is for Surfers Beach specifically, but that the committee has an article about the work the committee's done, and the unanimous vote recently by the board to move forward as the lead agency with sand replenishment at Surfers Beach. I think that's a great example of showing the board working together on things that previously the board didn't agree on unanimously, and so it's I think for the community's sake, I think it's a big step forward for the district. So I just wanted to call attention to that success of committee work and board support. And then also the finance committee has helped the district move forward with a number of things, such as looking at leases more carefully, and there's still a lot to be done there. Things like fish buying fees and other fees that are of concern, and procurement processes, and also identifying concerns about the current loan that we have with the Division of Boating and Waterways, and an interest in paying down or paying off that loan, and then replacing it with a different loan that would be less restrictive for the district. So those kinds of things that the committee has moved forward with in the last 5 months, I think, are worth recognizing, because it is a difference. In the past, there hasn't been an active finance committee. In fact, previous to 2015, there were no active committees at all to speak of, or very rarely. So I think that's a real sign of improvement for the district and the board's commitment to putting in extra time and extra effort and extra hours, and the staff has been involved with that as well, helping that process along and putting in extra work to make it happen. So I just wanted to recognize those things. I don't know if it's necessarily appropriate for this letter, but I think in the context of the MSR, it's worth recognizing in a little bit more detail than what was alluded to in the report. And also, there were just a couple of things I wanted to mention here on page, I guess this is page 3, because I'm looking at my version that I got that doesn't have page numbers, but I think it's page 3.
Which line numbers?
There are line numbers that go.
Yeah, I'll give you the line number. It's 137. Reliance, so item 2, reliance on property tax. And I know the Harbor Patrol is mentioned in this letter, which I think is great. But I wanted to point out with regard to item 2, reliance on property tax, that the Harbor Patrol is has a non-enterprise function, and that's something that it makes sense for property tax to fund, because it's a service that provides emergency response to people who are recreational boaters, commercial fishermen, and surfers, and anybody that, you know, is on the coast side using human-powered vessels. Could somebody shut the doors, because I'm having a hard time hearing in here? That'd be great. So I think that it's, you know, it's significant. It's a significant non-enterprise function, and it's really important because the Coast Guard is located quite far from here, and the Coast Guard response time is not as quick as maybe it could be if they were located closer to the coast side. So in many situations, our Harbor Patrol responds faster than the Coast Guard. Not always, it depends on where the incident has occurred, but it's really a great service to the community of the coast side to have that non-enterprise function, and it seems like a good thing to point out that this is a important way to use the property tax, because it serves visitors as well as local residents, and it serves the whole county in emergencies. So just wanted to mention that. And then on page, what I think is 4, line 169, it says, this is just a little typo thing, Granada Sanitation District, and that should be Granada Sanitary District, but I think you could probably leave that out and just say Granada Community Services District, because that's their new name. And then on line 190, it references our past general manager, and it says who served 15 years, and I believe he served 17 years. Or it says over 15 years, so fix that or not, it doesn't matter to me, but I just wanted to point out I think it's 17 years. And then the other thing I had is with regard to our budget, and I was looking at our most recent budget that was included in our last board packet, so that would have been June 17th, and that was the final budget that we approved. On pages 14 and also on pages, 14 and 15, they're graphs for Pillar Point Harbor and Oyster Point Marina, and it shows budgeted sources of funds and budgeted uses of funds. And so in reviewing the costs of Pillar Point and Oyster Point, you only need to look at the exhibits in the budget on pages 14 and 15 to see that Pillar Point has a $2.15 million deficit, and Oyster Point on page 15 has a 1.48 deficit, so about $1.5 million deficit. And the larger deficit at Pillar Point Harbor is primarily due to the district spending non-enterprise money on the Harbor Patrol, because there is no Coast Guard presence at Pillar Point Harbor. So I just wanted to point out that that is a significant additional cost at Pillar Point Harbor and an important service for the coast side. Coast Guard is located close to Oyster Point Marina, so they don't have the same kind of emergency needs that we have on the coast side. So I just wanted to point that out. And that is pretty much it for my comments. So I think the letter is a good letter, and again, I really appreciate all the effort that went into it. Thank you.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
May I ask a question? Does the motion permit
Yes.
responding to some of these helpful comments, making some
Yeah.
suggestions? I mean,
we
how do you want to
said
do
yes.
this?
Yeah, we weren't gonna rewrite the whole thing tonight. We're gonna allow you the Scribner's changes and any additions.
But we're not making a motion, are we gonna amend the motion? Well, why don't we hear, I'd like to hear the comments.
That's my only comment. So far, the motion that I heard was just to adopt this letter, and my request
No, we
was,
talked about approving your changes before the motion was made.
Do you want to restate it?
I would like to make a motion that we approve the draft response with the,
about authorizing Glenn to
Okay,
finalize it,
and-
consistent with the commissioner's discussion this evening.
that we approve this draft response to, for the municipal services review, and authorize the interim general manager to edit any changes that have been mentioned during our discussion under this item. And this is to be signed by the president of the board.
And our council amending in case you guys find some more. So that's understood?
That's understood. I just thought of a couple more comments I wanted to make though.
Okay.
So sorry, I forgot these. This is one thing that occurred to me when I was reading the letter, and again, we just got the letter, so I'm still processing it, and I can follow up with an email about this. And I don't know if somehow maybe this could be included as like an addendum, but it seemed to me that there are a number of things that the district has achieved in 2015 that weren't necessarily included in the municipal service review, although there are things included in the MSR that are related to recent forward or progressive movement by the district for the betterment of the district. But there are some other things, and I think if we picked back through our past minutes, and I know we don't have minutes for everything, or you could look through agendas or board packets, you'd see sort of a pattern of various things that have occurred. And I put together a list of some of those things that I think are achievements, so I can pass this on to staff tonight. I can just hand it off. But for example, like going back to January 7th, the district formed the following standing committees: Finance Committee, Beach Replenishment Committee, Water Quality and Public Safety Committee, Communication and Marketing Committee. The board voted unanimously to terminate membership in the California Maritime Infrastructure Bank Authority, hired an executive search firm to conduct a formal search for a new general manager. On January 21st, the board approved putting out an RFP for district legal services, and actually one of the proposals we got led to having special counsel help us with this response effort to the MSR draft. We authorized sending a letter to LAFCO requesting a delay in the municipal service review. February 11th, 2015, we held a board dynamics workshop, held a public site visit at Pillar Point Harbor. February 18th, 2015, we approved a coastal regional sediment management plan letter from the Beach Replenishment Committee. March 4th, the board voted to stop paying health insurance benefits for commissioners upon commencement of re-elected commissioners' new term of office. April 15th, 2015, we appointed 2 commissioners to the Oyster Point Marina Liaison Committee, adopted list of board norms as a follow-up to the board dynamics workshop. May 6, 2015, we approved BCDC Bay Sand Mining Letter from the Beach Replenishment Committee. April 1st, 2015, the board voted unanimously to support relocation of the district's headquarters near Pillar Point Harbor. The new El Granada office will be open for business on June 1st, which it is now. And on June 17th, that would take us to our very last meeting, the board voted unanimously to designate the Harbor District as the lead agency in the sand replenishment effort at Surfers Beach. So I think, I don't know, it just seems to me that we have accomplished a fair amount in the last 5 months, and that those accomplishments might be worth pointing to. So it's just a suggestion. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Did you have a copy of that for us?
I can pass that over right now.
So I think it would be helpful, and I'm sorry to keep belaboring the point, but it would be helpful to make sure that we have some clear direction from the board when it votes as to the authority to make continued changes. How many of these comments that Commissioner Brennan has made, are they all to be included? Sounds like Commissioner Brennan has indicated that she has further suggestions that she wants to submit. If there could be clarity and direction as to how you would like us to finalize this letter, that would be appreciated.
Can I comment when it's my turn?
Sure. My feeling would be, we've agreed to Scrivener's changes. We've agreed to correcting some minor grammatical errors. And I would recommend people like both of our councils that have experience with LAFCO reports decide what is essential to go in the package and what is not. And we've got a lot of extra information, and all the information should be considered. But the folks that have experience in this area should help guide us on our final draft, is my feeling. And I'd just like the motion to be very clear for you to understand that is your direction going forward. I'm seeing nodding on one side.
I'm just waiting for a motion and a second. I'm not trying to tell you how to do your business. I just want clear direction, that's all. So whatever you tell us to do, we'll do.
Could you restate your motion, please?
Could I comment?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. So I would agree with that. I would be totally comfortable with edits continuing up until the 11th hour when the letter has to be sent, or whatever the council's comfortable with. And I think it should be up to council, both our general counsel and our special counsel, to determine what ought to be included. I think that the general gist of the letter is looking really good. So if there are some additional tweaks or additional information that council thinks should be included, then by all means do it. So that's where I'm at with it.
If I can restate the motion. I making a motion that we approve the draft response with the options and advice of the two councils on Scrivener changes and edits that would make the document more articulate.
Is that sufficient direction?
Maybe one thing you could just say is you're authorizing council to make whatever changes council deems necessary or appropriate given any comments received by commissioners or staff after this meeting.
Is that clear?
Yes.
That's time lapse. We do want to get it by deadline.
All right, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Bernardo, Commissioner Brennan,
Aye.
Commissioner David, Commissioner Peravano,
Aye.
President Mateusz.
Aye. There's no further business for this evening. Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.